For 15 years, Obsidian has been synonymous with Fallout New Vegas. Following Fallout 3, the studio took Bethesda's formula and elevated it, crafting not just a better Fallout, but arguably the best one ever made. New Vegas kept the open world exploration and side quests that Bethesda made popular, but with richer companions, deeper role-playing, sharper writing, and choices that truly shaped the world. The result was so strong that Bethesda never let another studio touch this series again. After New Vegas, Obsidian carried the heavy weight of fan expectations. Everyone wanted them to recapture that same magic, but for the next decade, financial struggles kept the studio from reaching those heights again. They released solid titles like South Park: The Stick of Truth, Pillars of Eternity, and The Outer Worlds 1, but none matched New Vegas' impact. Tight budgets meant projects were often scaled back, unpolished, or visually dated next to their AAA peers. When Microsoft acquired Obsidian in 2018, fans wondered, would this finally let them reach their full potential, or would corporate interference hold them back? Avowed landed to middling reviews, and Grounded 2 was a solid follow-up, but with the release of The Outer Worlds 2, Obsidian finally feels close to reclaiming its former glory. After spending hours with the game, I can say it's not quite Fallout New Vegas, but it's the closest they've come since. Obsidian has spent much of its history fighting an uphill battle, talented but rarely given the resources to compete on an equal footing. Now, with Microsoft's backing, the studio finally has the support it's long deserved, and each new release shows clear growth. Meanwhile, you could argue the opposite has happened for Bethesda. While Obsidian spent years struggling, Bethesda was soaring, releasing hit after hit. Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, Fallout 3 and 4 all earned critical praise and massive success, but in recent years, Bethesda has struggled to recapture that magic. Fallout 76 and Starfield both faced heavy criticism, marking a decline in both quality and consistency. Meanwhile, Obsidian has been on the rise. Playing The Outer Worlds 2 immediately reminded me of Starfield, and it made me wonder, has Obsidian not only caught up to Bethesda, but have they surpassed them? Make no mistake, The Outer Worlds 2 is a far better game than Starfield, and the critics agree, but it's how Obsidian succeeded where Bethesda stumbled that I want to explore today. So in this video, we'll look at how Obsidian caught up, where both studios stand now, and what the future might hold for each. And as always, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. So how did we get here? In 2002, Bethesda Game Studios began crafting hand-designed RPGs, moving away from the procedural worlds of Arena and Daggerfall. The Elder Scrolls III Morrowind became an instant hit, offering unmatched freedom, deep lore, and immersive exploration. 4 years later, Oblivion refined the formula with better graphics, voice acting, and accessibility, winning Game of the Year and selling millions of copies. Meanwhile, in 2003, former Black Isle Studios developers founded Obsidian Entertainment, bringing with them a legacy of deep, choice-driven RPG design. Their early projects, Knights of the Old Republic 2 and Neverwinter Nights 2, showed brilliance in storytelling, but suffered from rushed deadlines and technical issues. Bethesda continued its rise with Fallout 3 in 2008, proving its ability to transplant its formula to new worlds while maintaining player choice and open world freedom. The two studios converged in 2010 when Bethesda entrusted Obsidian to create Fallout New Vegas, a follow-up to Fallout 3 that many consider an improvement, with richer companions, sharper writing, and more meaningful player choices. It was here that fans began to see Obsidian not just as a junior version of Bethesda, but as an equal, a studio capable of building on their legacy and pushing it even further. Despite New Vegas' success, Obsidian were not able to capitalize on it and push forward, as they faced financial struggles and cancelled projects, preventing them reaching Bethesda's commercial heights. Meanwhile, Bethesda cemented its dominance with Skyrim, a cultural phenomenon selling over 60 million copies, and then Fallout 4, which launched successfully despite divisive fan opinions. By 2015, Bethesda stood at the pinnacle of the gaming world, while Obsidian had nearly faded. Once peers, the gap had grown so wide that many thought Obsidian could never reach Bethesda's heights again. After almost shutting down entirely, Obsidian found salvation through the crowd-funded Pillars of Eternity, a critical and commercial success that revived the studio's reputation. They continued experimenting with titles like South Park: The Stick of Truth, Tyranny, and The Outer Worlds 1, proving they could deliver compelling RPGs even with smaller budgets. In 2018, Microsoft acquired Obsidian, giving them long-sought financial stability and the ability to scale up projects. That same year, Bethesda strayed from their trusted single-player open-world formula to pursue an online experiment with Fallout 76. The result was disastrous. The game launched in a broken state, players were treated poorly, and for the first time, cracks began to show in Bethesda's once untouchable reputation. Shortly after this, they also would be acquired by Microsoft. Rather than return to their roots with a single-player Elder Scrolls or Fallout title, Bethesda decided to continue down the road of experimentation with the release of Starfield. The game came in for heavy criticism due to the fact that it once again moved away from their old successful formula of handcrafted open worlds. In its place were vast but empty procedurally generated planets, repetitive environments and dungeons, and exploration that often felt hollow. Combined with uninspired storytelling, forgettable quests, and limited role-playing, the experience quickly lost its sense of wonder. They somehow followed this up with an even weaker DLC, which showcased the massive decline in the studio's work. While Bethesda struggled with Starfield, Obsidian quietly focused on several projects behind the scenes. The first to launch was Avowed. Many labelled it Skyrim Light, but that's not entirely fair. The potential was clear, but it just felt unfinished. Originally conceived as an MMO before being reworked into a single-player RPG, the game's direction changed multiple times during development, leaving behind a few rough edges. Features like crime systems were cut, NPCs felt static, and the writing sometimes came off as uneven. Yet, despite its flaws, Avowed showed promise, offering meaningful choices, strong role-playing foundations, and a striking world to explore. It wasn't a misstep, but it wasn't a breakthrough either. It was really meh. A step forward, yes, but Bethesda still had little reason to feel threatened, at least for now. Grounded 2 released shortly afterwards and received essentially the same type of review. A good starting point, but not the real deal. Great promise, but just missing the mark. So progress was slowly being made by Obsidian, but that new Fallout New Vegas still hadn't arrived, and now we have The Outer Worlds 2. Now, I've played this game for many hours, and although it isn't quite as good as Fallout New Vegas, it's the closest the studio has come. They took the original formula of The Outer Worlds 1 and improved on it each and every way. The combat feels sharper, RPG systems are deeper, and choices actually carry more weight, giving the game a stronger sense of consequence than its predecessor. Exploration and world design are much more purposeful, worlds feel real, and the writing and characters are tighter and more engaging. Add in an interesting leveling setup, an intriguing floor system, reputation standings, actual radio stations, and dialogue that is more concise. This is not just an okay game like Avowed and Grounded 2, this is one of the better RPGs this year, at least in my opinion. Now, it isn't perfect, it has limitations, the worlds are small, dungeons are limited, some of the writing is basic with no nuance, companions lack a bit of personality, but overall, it's the most refined and complete Obsidian RPG in years. The Outer Worlds 2 isn't quite at the level of the all-time greats, like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Witcher 3, Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk, or Red Dead Redemption 2. If those are the highest standard, The Outer Worlds 2 falls under that. It has plenty of strengths, but it's still missing some of the elements that elevate a game into the top category when it comes to RPGs. And its smaller open world areas and limited dungeons means it doesn't quite reach the scale or sense of discovery from Bethesda classics like Skyrim or even Obsidian's own Fallout New Vegas. It's not one of the all-time greats, but you know what game it is better than? Fallout 76 and Starfield. If you directly compare Starfield to The Outer Worlds 2, you can straight away see how Obsidian's new entry improves upon all its weaknesses. While The Outer Worlds 2 has smaller maps, every area is handcrafted, ensuring that exploration always feels rewarding. Unlike Starfield, which relied on procedural planets and recycled dungeons that felt empty and repetitive, The Outer Worlds' hand-built islands and point of interest consistently deliver new experiences. It may not match the scale of Skyrim or Fallout 4, but in terms of meaningful exploration and world design, it captures more of the classic Bethesda formula than Starfield ever did. In The Outer Worlds 2, every side quest is handcrafted, handcrafted and offers multiple approaches, from different dialogue options to varied ways of entering buildings or completing objectives, resulting in different outcomes and utilizing the player's perks, flaws, and skill points. This gives each quest its own personality and encourages replayability and experimentation. By contrast, Starfield relied heavily on procedural quest systems and generic fetch tasks, making most missions feel repetitive and soulless. Besides the main quest and faction quest lines, most of Starfield's quest content was of the Radiant design, where mission boards would offer endless repetitive simple quest objectives. No matter how many quests you did, they all felt identical. So where Bethesda often favored quantity over quality, Obsidian focused on crafting meaningful, memorable content. And when it comes to role-playing, it's not even close. The Outer Worlds 2 doubles down on what made Fallout New Vegas so great: meaningful role-playing choices. Right from the start, your background shapes how the world sees you, unlocking unique dialogue, hidden interactions, and even alternative ways to approach objectives. As you level up, the skills, perks, and flaws that you choose fundamentally change how the game responds. Investing in speech or persuasion can open entirely new quest paths, whilst lockpicking skills or science lets you bypass obstacles most players can't. Your decisions carry weight. Companions react to your actions, past choices can lock you out of certain content, and there's no respect to undo mistakes. It offers so much depth, and when flaws pop up, it shows that the game master is watching you, and that the game is adapting to your playstyle, which makes the game feel alive. Easily some of Obsidian's best role-playing depth to date. Compare this to Starfield, where very little role-playing was involved. Most quests feel interchangeable, choices rarely have lasting consequences, and no matter what kind of character you make, the outcome feels pretty similar. Essentially, in Starfield, two players could choose totally different backstories, strengths, and different playstyles, but both will be near identical experiences. Since Oblivion, Bethesda have been moving further and further away from deep RPG mechanics, focusing more on player accessibility and ease of use. Fallout 4 has little to no role-playing, but provides fast-paced gunplay and settlement building, whereas Morrowind has slow combat but incredible role-playing depth. It's fair to say Bethesda have almost abandoned role-playing entirely now, and Starfield's lack of it certainly confirms that transition. The Outer Worlds 2, on the other hand, offers role-playing depth Bethesda haven't attempted in years. Add to this, companions in The Outer Worlds 2 have different backgrounds, ethical beliefs, react to your actions, their own stories and quests, and they interact with one another. Starfield was often heavily criticized for offering companions who lack personality and all have the same goody two-shoes beliefs. As a result, The Outer Worlds 2 offers more variety here. Combat offers more options, there's radio stations with music, there are cutscenes during dialogue, there's new animations. The Outer Worlds 2 excels in many places where Starfield stutters. Now you might point out, well, these are two different games. One is going for a smaller scope, whereas the other is trying to give you a galaxy to explore, and you'd be right. You might declare that The Outer Worlds 2 isn't a masterpiece, not up to the standards of this year's greats like Expedition 33 or Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and you'd also be correct. But there's one thing most can agree on. The Outer Worlds 2 is a game that shows improvement from a studio that is continuing to grow with each release. They took the criticism of Avowed and The Outer Worlds 1 and learned from player feedback. They have doubled down on their strengths and focused on what they're good at. This is the complete opposite to what Bethesda have decided to do, which is to ignore fan feedback at every opportunity and continue to move away from their core formula. As a result, Obsidian continues on an upwards trajectory, whereas Bethesda continues to slump down. And with Starfield and The Outer Worlds 2 being these studios' last two releases, I think one could say that Obsidian have not only caught up, but they may have taken over. Bethesda dominated for years, but their recent history shows a bad trend, where each game keeps declining in quality and moving from their core formula, whereas Obsidian are improving with each release. If this pattern continues, Obsidian's next releases will be even better, and Bethesda's even worse. The only thing holding Obsidian back is their unwillingness to attempt a giant open world, focusing on smaller segments instead. But now that they have their core foundation set, Could this be their moment to attempt to beat Bethesda at their own game with their next release, as they did with Fallout New Vegas? For the past 15 years, Obsidian has been in Bethesda's shadow, a studio with great potential but never able to reach the heights expected. Despite beating Bethesda at their own game with Fallout New Vegas, financial difficulty held them back. Whilst Bethesda dominated the gaming landscape, Obsidian could only watch in envy, unable to truly compete. But now, with Bethesda opting to try new things and drifting further and further away from the formula with each release, and with Obsidian starting to fill that gap, the tables have completely turned. Obsidian are not just catching up, they could end up surpassing them unless Bethesda makes changes soon. The Outer Worlds 2 delivers handcrafted environments, meaningful choices, memorable companions, and role-playing systems that respond to your background, perks, and flaws, all while avoiding the repetitive, soulless design that plagues Starfield. It's not a perfect game, and it doesn't reach the scale of Skyrim or Fallout 4, but it exemplifies a studio learning from its past, improving with each release, and now surpassing the company that once towered over it. Obsidian's trajectory is upwards. Bethesda's, for now, is downwards, and if this trend continues, Obsidian could finally claim the crown of modern Western RPGs. Obsidian haven't quite made a game that matches Bethesda's peak, but they're getting closer and closer with each game they make. And Bethesda, well, they're getting further and further away. If Obsidian can build from their recent successes and start to show more ambition, there's no reason that they cannot overtake Bethesda and become the new masters of the open world RPGs when it comes to Western games. But anyway, that's it for this one, but what do you guys think? Have you had a chance to play The Outer Worlds 2? Between Starfield and that game, which did you prefer? And do you feel Bethesda can turn it around, or can Obsidian take their spot? Or is there another studio that you're rooting for? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please give it the thumbs up, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching. Avowed.